We will start again. Yes, thank you, please. So Frédéric Wertz is a commodity analyst and he will present us his work on demand-side management valuation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I'm currently working at Cesesco, and since 2016, 2017, we have started demand-side management in our company, and I wanted to share with you some insight on how it can be working. So first I need to present some context on which market are we working. Then I will define fastly what is demand-side management and give you some economical results of our past activity. So since the European unbundling, before there were usually one historical operator like EDF in France, no market, and Q-Summer. With European unbundling, this has been divided into 4 different roles. So there is the electricity producer, so which is in competition with several actors, but there are not so many actors. There is for every country usually one transmission system operator, exceptionally more in Great Britain, Germany, but usually there is one regulated body which is in charge of grid stability. There are the electricity distributors. There is only one in France, which is Enedis, but in different countries there can be more than one, which are also in competition, but they have a monopoly in the concession they won, let's say. They are responsible for electricity measurement, reporting. And then finally there is electricity retailer. Here there is the highest competition. All the new actors in the electricity, usually they don't have any asset. They buy electricity from the power market and they sell to you, if you choose one or the other. So producers and retailers can sell their production in long term, in short term, in different kind of markets. The spot market is a day ahead market, which is the most liquid, where every hour gets a unique price. Every hour is a different volume of electricity to be sold and at a different price. Intraday market is much less liquid, at least in the Czech Republic, and it is not, let's say, the spot market, everybody put its bids, and the power exchange determines a unique price. The intraday market is going live, so you can have different price depending on which counterparty you got. But all this trading is made before the real electricity consumption, which means that once now I am running the projector, the electricity has already been bought. If I don't switch it on, I don't consume this electricity, and there will be, let's say, a surplus of electricity in the system. So at any moment, there is always kind of imbalances between what have been traded before and the real consumption, the real production, because it's impossible to predict 100% what will be the consumption, what will be the production, especially when it is about solar or wind. Even classical production can have some switch down, some problems, etc. So we need imbalance settlement. It means parties, actors that didn't respect that bought not enough or too much of electricity compared to the real production and consumption must be penalized according to their deviation. So we say that producers and retailers are balance responsible parties. They are responsible for their own imbalance. Now, is it okay for the unbundling and 4 different roles? The distributor, the transmission system operator is responsible of the very high voltage grid, and the distributor is responsible for the, let's say, little grid in the city and for the measurement at every houses. It has also some little problem of grid stability, but I don't talk about it here. It's not my problem. We are not responsible in front of the distributor, but in front of the transmitter. So the judge is the TSO, transmission system operator. So what is grid stability? Grid stability means that at every moment production must match consumption, and since the electricity is not storable, it means that somebody, which is a transmission system operators, must adjust production and consumption at every second, every minute, every hour. So this is, for example, you have 1 point for every minute. This is 24 hours of a day in the Czech Republic. So you see that regulation energy can go up to minus 400 megawatts, up to also 400 megawatt up, but usually it's between minus 100 plus 100. For a country like the Czech Republic, for France, it's maybe not proportionally bigger, but at least bigger. What do you mean? The thing, yeah. I think it's about 15 seconds. Here we see only the minute points, but the TSO has about 15 seconds to react. There is always the inertia of the big rotors in every traditional power plant. With less inertia from a nuclear or coal power plant, it will be more difficult to balance the grid. But with big inertia, I mean, I'm speaking about kinetic energy, there is some time. And anyway, regulation is automatic. So it means that as soon as frequencies start to decrease or increase, there is a direct feedback and something is happening in order to be back at 50 Hertz. This is the same, but aggregated at hour granularity, because in Czech Republic we settle imbalance at hourly granularity. It can be 30 minutes in France, 15 minutes in Germany. So every country is a bit different, but still the logic is plus minus the same. The TSO hasn't got any energy sources, so he must buy the regulation energy to, let's say, service providers, which is another kind of electricity market. But basically it comes from the same power plant, just a coal power plant sells its predictive production to the market and keeps a little margin that it can sell to the TSO, saying, I have 5 megawatt plus minus that you can activate whenever you want. I guarantee that it will always work, let's say, or plus minus 10, whatever. So this regulation energy, it's in average 60 megawatt hour every hour. But if you count the minute, it's about 90 megawatt minutes per minute. I call it 90 megawatt minutes per minute, just to give you order of magnitude. So here you will see the average size is 90 megawatt, and here the average size plus or minus will be about 60, just to normalize a bit the things. The TSO is buying this regulation energy. It must get some money somehow. So the cost of regulation energy must be covered by imbalance settlements, the aim of what I am talking. So TSO penalize the balance responsible party when they increase the systemic imbalance, or they might reward the balance responsible parties that were against the system. It means that if you have an imbalance of plus 50, some actors might have plus 100, and some actors might have minus 50. So the ones that have minus 50, they indeed helped the system. Okay, so Imbalance costs represent about 1 to 2% of power sales. It's still a little part of it. And here you can see the correlation between spot market and the position of the system. Here there is a surplus of electricity in the system, and here there is a deficit of electricity in the system. And all the blue point are spot hours, so there are 8,000 points in this graph. And you see a slight correlation. It means that when spot market is high, it means that people prefer not to buy electricity and take the risk to have a negative imbalance. And when the electricity is very cheap, it would be, let's say, stupid not to buy this cheap electricity and to take the risk of being short. So usually they buy, and that's why everybody buying this cheap electricity, usually the system has a positive imbalance. But it's not systematic, okay? How does this cost is covered? Here you see when BRP have the same direction in imbalance as the system, they got penalized proportionally to the size of the system imbalance. If there is a deficit of electricity of minus 100, you see that the missing electricity must be bought from the TSO at about 100 euros, even more if the imbalance is higher. On the opposite, if you have an excess of electricity and the system is in excess, the system absorbs your excess and asks you even some tens of euros to cover the cost of absorbing this electricity. If you are against the system, you are rewarded. These numbers are the same at the zero axis, but they are not growing when the system has a higher or higher imbalance, this direction or this direction. You see the difference? These 2 points are the same, but when you are against the system, you don't get the extra value when you help the system, or exceptionally. Okay? And this is the intraday market, where you see that the correlation is a bit higher than the spot market, which means that some hours before the business hour, people start to see where the system will be, whether it will be in shortage of electricity or in surplus, and they start to buy the needed electricity. And of course, who can deliver electricity? Somebody which will accept a higher price, because it will be highly demanded. Okay, the difference between intraday and spot. The correlation is a bit higher. So now, what is demand side management? To say it quickly, some customer planned to have this consumption curve of electricity, and the system is in shortage. We ask him to decrease his consumption here, and we pay him for that. Or oppositely, we ask him to increase his consumption if he has the capabilities. Where to find flexibility? So when you produce electricity in your company, you have a dispatchable source, so you can adjust it. For example, here, typically pumps. When you pump water in water reservoir, you can choose when you want to do it or not. Or let's say that in your manufacturer, there is you are waiting. You did something and you wait for the next process to happen, and it cannot happen already. So what you did, you could do it 1 hour later, because still you are waiting for the next step. So you can a bit play with this flexibility. Okay, how can it make us for money? So there are two possibilities to value demand side management. Either you have a high quality flexibility, and you can sell it directly to the transmission system operator. This is not yet possible in the Czech Republic, because our TSO wants very, very high guarantees that the system is fully dispatchable, automatic, etc. But some people some countries accept this kind of DSM aggregators. Aggregator, it's us. It means that we have different customers, and each customer can provide a little flexibility, and together it means a higher bigger number in terms of megawatt hour. So in France you have Energy Pool, in Germany you have Next Kraftwerke that dispatch some customers, some industrialized customer, and at the end they have really some big number of regulation energy to propose to the TSO. And in that case, you go directly to the ancillary service market and you say that you have 20 megawatt hour to up or down and you want a price for that. If your flexibility is not guaranteed, you cannot go to the TSO, but you can propose this flexibility to your electricity supplier, which is a balanced responsible party, which means that the balanced responsible party will decrease its imbalance towards the system and thus save some penalties. And then you can decide to allocate from this saved penalty, you can pay your customer for the service he provided you. Okay? So in that case, you cannot call the flexibility at every minute. Only TSO has live data and can call in live. A balanced responsible party must predict what will be the direction of the next hour. So you need a predictive model for next hour imbalance, and you need to call flexibility enough in advance. So here I present this part within the Czech context. So the number won't tell you so much because it's country dependent, but still. So how dispatchable is a flexible device? Is it always dispatchable? Not always. So some devices are on demand. It means we call, could you reduce your consumption? Yes, no, and we go. In that case, either we pay, we must pay for activated megawatt hour, either with a profit share, either a fixed payment. Of course, if the customer asks a fixed payment, it will reduce the volume of the calls, because when we are not sure of the system direction, we won't call. If we make 50-50, even if we are not sure, we can say, okay, we try this direction, and if it's okay, we make 50-50. If not, the risk is ours. And it can happen that if the device is shut down, it means that it will be shut on later. So there is a rebound effect. If the rebound effect is short in time, plus 1 hour, plus 2 hours, it decreases the value of the flexibility you just provided. So here, for example, in x-axis, I have, let's say, the quality of the prediction. I have a prediction model, and I apply a threshold, and the higher the threshold is, the higher I'm sure that I predict the right direction. But the higher the threshold is, the less often I can call, because sometimes my model is only, let's say, plus 10, so if I want a threshold of 40, I won't do anything. So there is no surprise that the value of the megawatt hour, it's euro per megawatt hour, is rising with my confidence. It is also rising with the delay of rebound effect. Without rebound effect, you are here, and with 1 hour rebound effect, you are here. 2, 3, 4, 6, etc. It's growing. But the business we do out of that is the revenue per activated megawatt hour times the number of flexibility we call. So of course, if we are very selective, it means if our customer want to be rewarded, let's say 40 euros, we need to have a high enough threshold so that at least it will cover our cost. So it means that we will call less often. And here, so this times how often we call means that there is an optimum not here. And every different curve has its own optimum. So let's say that a reasonable optimum is here, that the confidence is enough so that you are not so wrong, and still the volume of cold megawatt hour is enough. Now, the second way how to make money out of flexibility is to control the device. For example, pump reservoir. The pump needs to work, let's say 50% of time, plus minus 10% over a given period. Let's say that the period is 1 day, it can be 1 week, 1 month. And instead of, because you will control the device, you just offer them a discount on electricity. And this is my last slide. You see that for 3 months period, it means that this is very flexible. It means maybe the first month I won't switch on the device, and the other 2 months I will activate it. So here in that case, you can have almost free electricity. When I say free electricity, it's only free power electricity. There still remains the distribution charges, the tax charges, any kind of flat things. Just the electricity itself will be free. If you need for a water reservoir to pump 50% of the time every day, you can afford only, let's say, 30% discount. Okay? So in conclusion, imbalances represent only some percent of the power cost, as I said, without distribution charges. But in a market where the margins are very small, it can count. You need to find reliable customers. For example, Skoda won't stop its production for 1 hour. It is losing so many money that it won't do that. And best customers are usually those who have a little internal production unit on site for historical reason. Typically a very energy intensive industry, steel industry has this. So is this demand side management or supply side management? What we did last year was mainly supply side management. We are trying to get demand side management, but it's difficult to get customers that really accept to move their consumption. That's it. Thank you.